Welcome back to another episode of the Clever Angle Podcast. We are still continuing the Voicing the Silence mini-series, and this is actually going to be a two-part episode, and we are going to be covering the Black male perspective. And today with me is one of my long-term friends, Justin Thompson. JT, how you doing, dog?
Man, what's up, Tevin, a.k.a. Rex?
Man, I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I'm glad we finally had our schedules to link up to where we could do this, because it's always good to catch up, man.
Always, man. We need to do it more often.
Yeah. But I mean, as we'll probably get into this, being a family man and kids and stuff, man, it keeps us on the move. So
yeah, you're a father of two. I'm about to be a father of two.
Yeah, man. So congratulations with that, as well, man. So yeah, man. You know what it is. Voicing the Silence, man. We're just gonna talk about a little bit about your experience growing up as a Black man, because I think that is one perspective that if you aren't in those shoes, that you don't realize all of the stuff that we go through as Black men. Right. Feel free to just start wherever you want to, but I just want to get your overall thoughts of what it was like growing up as a Black man.
All right, so I'll start. Originally I'm from Blauville, Arkansas, and if people don't know, if you've never been, Blauville is a predominantly African American town. Probably go on a limb and say 90 to 95% Black. So growing up, I was there till about 12 or 13. That's mainly what I knew. I knew Black people. I had seen white people, don't get me wrong. I had seen other races, but I was just used to being around Black people. And so, like I said, about 12 or 13, my mom decides that she's going to move to Jonesboro, Arkansas. Now, I had never heard of Jonesboro, knew nothing about it.
Really?
Nah, never, nope. And so we up and move, and the first experience I have here, I'm going to Nettleton. And most people know Nettleton at that time was predominantly white. Right. So I get there, and it is a total culture shock. I had never seen that many white people in my life in one setting. And I mean, I've told you this before, like for the first 6 months I'm in this school system, I didn't really talk. I mean, I kind of kept to myself. I was trying to adjust, and like I said, I had never really been around that many. I had never really been a minority to that point in my life. I had already seen other people that looked like me. So
when you got ready to transfer to Nettleton, did you know that was going to be the case?
Oh no, I had no idea. I had no clue of what I was walking into. As far as I was concerned, I was going to another school that was going to look kind of like Blauville. A whole lot of me with a sprinkle of everything else in there. But it was the exact opposite. And so, like I said, the first 6 months was a transition stage for me. I didn't talk. I had friends, but, I was still kind of reserved. I didn't raise my hand in class to answer questions. Nothing like that. I was just real quiet. It was to the point to where I actually had a teacher send me to the counselor's office. And, you get in the counselor's office and they ask those counselor questions. Is everything okay at home? Are you being fed? And I'm like, dude, everything's great. I'm just not used to seeing this many white people, And I look back at it now, I laugh because I'm like, I have so many white friends now. But I'm like, back then I was just like, oh, my gracious, what is going on?
That's crazy that that's how you felt about it, because I mean, obviously that's a little different from how I grew up. I grew up going to Nettleton, so I honestly didn't even ever think of, wow, there's a lot of white people here. I mean, that's just always been the reality.
Right.
It's not uncommon for me to be in a room and be the only Black person there, and it's not uncommon for me to not even draw attention to that. So that's very interesting. You coming in obviously a little bit later in life, around junior high, and having that experience.
And yeah, I mean, and like the thing was, I was always a smart student. You know, my mom, you know, she didn't play about grades, so I was always a straight A or AB student. So most of the time I was in advanced placement classes.
Yeah.
And when I get here at Nettleton, you know, I'm in those advanced placement classes, and a lot of the times I'm the only black student. And I'm just like, oh, okay, this is different. You know, over time, you know, as the years go by, I kind of get used to it. And it's a funny story. 8th or ninth grade, I'm in a pre-AP science class, and it's like the first week of school. So, you know, we're still getting adjusted. People are changing schedules and all that. And like I said, I'm normally the only black guy in these classes, black person, period. And this girl walks in. And to this day, this is how we laugh about how we met. But her name is Nakira White. She walks in the class, and I literally yell at the top of my lungs, "Thank God there's another black person." And she gives me this look like, "What are you talking about? Like, this dude is crazy." And, you know, instantly we kind of connect because we had a lot of classes together. But she kind of came from the same background as me. She was from, I believe, Forest City, which is another predominantly black town. So when she got here, she was like, "Hey, I understand what you're talking about. It's a lot of white people here." And it's nothing bad, you know. I'm not saying that, you know, there's anything bad about white people, but it's just a complete culture shock. Just imagine, you know, like being placed in a different country where everyone looks different from you, and except for a few people. Yeah, it's a culture shock. It takes some time to get used to.
Yeah. So would you say that you had trouble connecting at first with the white people in your classes? Or was it just, you know, after you came out of your shell, you didn't have any problem?
I don't think I had too many problems, especially once I came out of my shell. Like I said, those first... Nice.
Yeah.
Those first couple of years or months or whatever, like I said, coming out of my shell was a little difficult. But once I came out, you know, I'm a social butterfly. You put me in a room with, you know, 100 people, I'm probably going to make friends with at least 99 of them. So,
yeah,
you know, that wasn't an issue once I opened up. So,
yeah. So, can you just elaborate a little bit more on your like junior high experience? So, you and Akira are a few of the only people that are in AP classes. What was it like after you got adjusted?
You know, once I got adjusted, like I said, I never really thought about it again. I try not to look at color. At least at that point in my life, I hadn't been trained socially to look at color.
Yeah.
You know, I was just like, you know, this is my friend. We go to school together. We have classes together. I didn't care, white, black, Mexican, Asian, you know, cool friend. And it wasn't until about, you know, junior high going into high school when I really started to notice, you know, that being black was a thing. And it's not, you know, I'm not saying that I didn't embrace my culture or anything, but that's when I started to notice that people really looked at the fact that I was black first. They didn't look at the fact that I was a human first and that I was a male first. They looked at the fact that I was black first. That was the first thing they saw. And so it was about 10th, 11th grade when I first started to notice that.
Yeah. So I'm in an interracial marriage. Did you have any experiences where race played a factor in your junior high or high school days?
Unfortunately, yeah, I did. It was, I want to say 10th grade. Me and this girl, again, once I came out of my shell, I was friends with everybody. So me and her had been friends for, you know, X amount of years. And, you know, we always, you know, hung out and stuff like that. And there was a attraction. I think so. I know so because she told me. But, you know, 9th, 10th grade, you're like, "Hey, you want to be my girlfriend?" And she's like, I would love to, but I can't. I'm like, you know, I'm like, dang, nabbit. You know, there's another guy that beat me to the punch, you know, whatever the case may be. I waited too late, whatever. And so I asked her, you know, like, "Hey, you know, why can't we, you know, be exclusive?" And she's like, "My dad isn't going for that." And the first thought that comes to my mind isn't that I'm black. It's like, oh man, her dad isn't letting her date, you know? And
yeah, because that was the thing back then.
Yeah, that was the thing.
You know, we have little girls. You know, I'm thinking of, I don't want my girls dating until 16, 17.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You're already thinking about the age.
Exactly.
When you're gonna let them date.
Exactly.
And so that's the first thing I'm like, okay, her parents have given her age. She has not made the age requirement to date yet, or at least publicly date. Because everyone had a little boyfriend and girlfriend in junior high. And so she's like, no, it's not that. And I'm like, okay, so what is it? And she's like, yeah, my dad wouldn't like me dating a black guy. I'm like, what? Like I said, up until this point, I hadn't really said and thought about it. But she really started to. That's when I really started to open my eyes. And she's like, yeah, he wouldn't go for that. I would, kind of get disowned and all that. And I'm like I said, this is 9th, 10th grade. So I'm like, that's a lot of pressure to put on a kid. Like, hey, this is a kid that you see every day at school and y'all really like each other, but because he's black, you can't date him. And I was like, man. And it was crazy because my side, my mom never gave me that speech. The only speech I ever got from my mom is don't come home with kids outside of wedlock. That was the speech I got from my mom. It was never, don't bring a white girl home. It better be black. She didn't care. As long as, we were doing it right, dating right, and the girl treated me right and I treated the girl right. My mom didn't care what race she was. But it was a shock to hear that somebody else couldn't date a particular race because their parents wouldn't let them.
Yeah, man. And we talked a little bit about this off air. My parents were similar to yours. Treat the girl with respect, court her.
Right.
As long as you like her, we like her. I just want you to be happy.
Right.
Those types of conversations. So, yeah, I was never, ever told by my parents that it mattered what race the person was. And it was definitely eye-opening to see and hear about people's, getting disowned or even potentially getting disowned. Right. You know what I mean? So like you said, you're 14, 15 years old. Why would you want to put those kind of heavy thoughts on your son or daughter? So, I mean, yeah, man, that's just crazy. And I don't think a lot of people realize that, this was 10 years ago.
I know, right? This is not like this was back in 1980 or 70. Yeah. No, this is 2000 to 2010. I graduated in 2010.
Yeah.
So, this is fairly fresh, fairly new.
Yeah. And it's just a scary situation because we're going to be raising kids in this world. And I just really hope that if anyone that's listening to this, just take away from the fact that that's not how you're supposed to love people. You know what I mean? Like, we need to stop this cycle of what people did before us. We need to start a new chapter and show people that, like, it's okay to date outside your race if that person is who you want to be with.
Right. Because you never know who you're going to fall in love with.
Exactly. So, yeah. So, throughout the rest of your career throughout the rest of your, I'm used to doing a job podcast, but anyway, throughout the rest of your time there at Nettleton, did you experience any other forms of racism or that you remember?
I can't think of any just off the top of my head. I tried to, I don't want to say ignore it, but I didn't really want to accept it.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I really got out of high school and got to college at A-State when it really started hitting hard. Because, you get out of high school, you've been in high school and junior high with the same kids for 4 to 6 years. So y'all developed a friendship, y'all develop a bond. And so when you go to college, of course, if you see one of them, it's hey, I know that person. We're in this big new world and I see somebody I know, that's who I'm going to go talk to. And it was freshman year of college and I'm in a class. I see a guy that we had been friends, like I said, junior high through high school, played sports together. I spent the night over his house, met his parents, all of that. And I see him in class and I'm like, hey, I'm trying to get his attention. He's kind of ignoring me. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe he didn't, it's a big class. It's college. Maybe he didn't see me or whatever. And so, couple of days, couple of weeks go by, and I finally catch up with him, and I'm like, hey man, what's up? You want to study? This class is hard, yada yada yada. And he flats out tells me, he's like, man, I would love to, but I can't. And I'm like, okay, it's a scheduling conflict. I'm like, dude, you just tell me, when you're available. I don't have a lot going on. He's like, no, it's not that. I can't really be seen with you. And I'm like, what? Like, what do you mean you can't be seen with me? Like, dude, we literally hung out every day in high school. We played sports together, so we were always together. And he's like, man, look, I'm trying to get into this fraternity. And Tevin knows the fraternity. I'm not going to say the fraternity. Yeah. Tevin knows exactly what fraternity
I think a lot of people know the fraternity. Just because it's crazy because that fraternity just has that reputation, what I mean? Without even knowing much about it, you learn very quickly once you go to A-State the reputations that certain places have. It's okay to go here, it's not okay to go there, type of things. And I was never in a fraternity myself, but I mean, I liked meeting people, so we hung out at some of the fraternity houses, and I've even been in that fraternity house.
I went once.
Yeah,
I went once, and I'll never go back again.
Exactly. We got kicked out, and it was eye opening that you could be friends with someone that was in the fraternity. They invited you to come there, and then you come there, and
it's immediate tension. Like as soon as you walk in the door, it's like, why are you here?
And it's just, I would just wish that these long-standing traditions of things could be broken, and something would come out of the ashes that was new. Because I don't think everyone that was in the fraternity is a bad person.
No.
You know what I mean?
I still think that guy, even though he joined that fraternity, I still think he's a great guy. He has kids now. I think he's a great dad. You know? I don't hold any animosity against him, but it's still like, dude, you literally could not be seen with me because I was black and because you wanted to be a part of this fraternity. Yeah. And they would have frowned on you.
Exactly. Didn't you say it was like a legacy or something?
Yeah, man. It's like, his dad was a part of that fraternity. I think his granddad, his brother. And I'm like, so.
Did you ever have any encounters with this guy's parents?
Like I said, I spent the night over his house.
Yeah.
His dad, I never would have guessed it, I still don't think his dad is that type of person. I didn't really know much about white fraternities in high school. I knew about a lot of black fraternities. And so, I didn't even know his dad was in a fraternity until we got until college. Yeah. That's when he told me, it's a family thing. My dad did it, my brother did it, my granddad did it. So I'm like, man, he has a kid now. I think he has two, and I believe one of them is a son. So I'm like, your son is gonna grow up and see, hey, my dad and my uncle and my granddad and my great granddad, they all went and joined this fraternity. So I want to go and join this fraternity. And if that fraternity still has the same basic principles, how are you going to raise your son? Are you going to have that conversation with him? That's kind of tough.
Yeah. And I know we'll get into a lot more of the parenting aspect in the second part. That's the majority of what I want to talk about in the second part. But I do want to say this before I lose my train of thought. It is just crazy how much people don't want to disappoint their parents.
Dude.
You know what I mean? Like it kind of really drives what a lot of people do, because even the girl that you said that was interested in you and you were interested in her in junior high / high school, even though she did like you and even though she would have been in a relationship with you, not at the cost of being seen as, in some kind of unflattering light to her parents.
Dude, and people, I mean, as far as like from getting married to picking careers to everything in life, you're really basing that off of some thought that your parents have. And don't get me wrong, I want to make my mom happy in everything I do. I want to, represent her well. But my mom doesn't try to dictate my life, And I feel like that's what a lot of parents are doing when they tell their kids, hey, you can't date this person because of their race. You're literally dictating a part of their life that even if they grow up, in the back of their head, that has been mentally driven in that, hey, I can't date this particular race. And it just continues.
Yeah, man. It's crazy because I just really want us to be a part of the generation that kind of shifts this to a different way, man, because it's gone on too long. I think now more than ever, people are more open than they've ever been, but there's still a lot of work to be done.
A lot.
There's still so many different traditions and chains that have to be broken before we can really start to see each other as equals in, in just the workplace, in relationships, in just friendships in general. Because I have interracial kids, you have black kids. I don't want them to have to go through any scrutiny because of the color of their skin. And those are hard conversations that we're going to have with them, and try to explain to them, look, God made you perfectly. It's just these people, they think differently about that.
Amen. And right now is the perfect time, because all that starts with what we're doing right now is the conversation.
Yeah.
Man, and it's uncomfortable for a lot of people, but the conversation has to be had, and things have to be put in place for change to actually happen. Like, one conversation that we all need to realize and have is that the foundation of this nation was not built on equality for anybody. When they came over here, in whatever year they came, this country was founded on the belief that the white male was, kind of, his word is what mattered. Even women back then didn't have a say so.
Yeah.
Let alone race. So, we have to go back and fix the foundation of a thing before we can, fix what's happening now. So,
yeah. So if you were, a white person, or like, where do you basically, not even just a white person, where do we go from now? Like, what do we do to move the conversation from conversation to action?
So, like I said, first thing, if you're African American, you have to be willing to actually talk. I understand we're angry and what's been happening isn't right, but looting and rioting, and I'm not saying protest, yes, we have the right to protest, that's a legal right, but looting and rioting, that's not the answer. It's not going to do anything but paint this picture in their eyes that we're already trying to erase. And if you're white, you have to be open to the conversation, even though it hasn't happened to you and you personally haven't experienced it. It's still happening. And so if somebody comes to you and tells you, hey, this is happening, you can't just brush it off. Oh, no, I don't see that. No, you have to look at the facts. Is it a possibility that this is really happening? So,
yeah, I just think that you have to be willing to learn, to be educated. And like I said, this is going to be a 2-part episode. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up right now. And on the second part, we're going to talk about what it looks like raising black and mixed children in this world today. And so stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure that you subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. And we will see you guys next week. Peace.